This is a video of me wondering about retirement. Next year I will pick up a couple of pensions, one from Japan, one from America, very small ones. And I will seek work, therefore, for the rest of my life in nations that don't have a retirement age. And I will probably be academic work, maybe running some research organization as well. So I'll have immense amounts of free time, as I have had my entire life. I've worked 2 days a week for the first 10 years of my life, and then 2 hours a week for the rest of my life. And I have fortunately turned that free time into 50,000 pages of books that I've written. 14 books on the web and 2 books by McGraw-Hill. So here I am looking at retirement and examining retirement communities in Malaysia and in Thailand and in Switzerland and in Karlsruhe, Germany, and in Italy and Spain after the crisis here, and Southern California. And do I have any great wisdom for anybody? Absolutely not. But we have this issue of the whole baby boom is now retiring, and they're going to do that for the next 10 years. And does that mean that interest rates on savings will be 0 for the next 10 years? Because many people saved up money in order to live on the income from that money. And if the interest income is not 3%, then retirement becomes impossible in terms of not working, and therefore we need to work. However, many countries have stupid retirement ages so that they, by law, forbid their people to work. But they can't pay them pensions, so it's so stupid. So get rid of the laws preventing people working and let them work, and then get a little bit more serious about growing part-time work and different kinds of jobs and good welfare systems even for people with part-time work, as the Dutch have done and shown that anybody can do. So what about retirement? What are the conditions? Well, I notice the people who, with the same body that I have and the same diet that I have, etc., who live to age 96 and 100 are musicians and novelists, quite generally, in every society. And fortunately, me and my students have interviewed hundreds of them over the years. And so I know face to face the emotional moments that changed my attitude about my life and my retirement from hearing great artists and writers and poets and musicians talk to me. And they have something that they pour their life and selves into, a work, creative work that they pour themselves into, that really speaks for them in places where they are not and in times where they are not, and will speak for them after they die. And it's extremely satisfying when a serious illness comes up. And we were talking with, who was I talking about? Ando, the Japanese architect, or somebody, Tadao Ando. I was talking to some Japanese famous guy whose English was pretty good, self-taught, didn't go to college, and he was telling me that when he views retirement and serious illness at retirement, you're in this hospital bed and you've got all these nurses and doctors running around doing procedures, more or less torturing you. And you're aware that it doesn't matter very much whether you make it out of this knife fight with God or not, because you've already poured so much of yourself into these works that will run around the world speaking for you for centuries. And the web has made it even better, because if you're searchable on the web and in PDF on the web with in enough sites, you will be accessible for people generations or centuries into the future. And I've written 14 web books, 50,000 pages, plus 2 McGraw-Hill books, and really poured myself into those. I mean, if I had to do those again, the suffering involved, you just die when you write a book, because you show up in front of a laptop and you start organizing and typing, and you work, your eye muscles cramp, and your jaw muscles cramp, and your shoulders and arms and legs cramp, and God knows your blood vessels probably cramp and create strokes and heart disease that way. So it's a very dangerous occupation. But a lot of the people who retire the most satisfiedly are people who constantly, all the way through their life and through their retirement, generate these works that they pour their selves into, that speak for them to future ages and centuries. And the sooner you come to terms with, there's two kinds of lives: the lives where you generate works like that, and the lives that don't. And I talked to one of my friends about whether children are that kind of satisfaction. And he said a really interesting thing. I don't know if he's right, but he's one of the smarter people in my life. And he said that if you had enough influence on your children to make them some sort of perpetuations of you, you probably destroyed them psychologically, and they're drug addicts or in some other serious trouble. And they're not going to carry the family traits heroically into any sort of good future. If you set them free, like wild animals, to fly their own flight to their own destinations in their own way, after you gave them the best initial factory settings you knew how, which were out of date and old and bigoted by you. But if you really, really set them free to make themselves, then they are so different than you and so utterly uninfluenced by you that their otherness is relaxing. But they don't stand as works you put into the world anymore. And so Demoiselle d'Avignon, the painting that Picasso did, that's probably going to be famous 1,000 years from now, that when he released it to his friends horrified them, so he put it back and hid it for a few years until the world had evolved a little more. That's, you can imagine that Picasso, whatever it was when he died, 90, 96, with a smile on his face, because he knew people about it years from now are going to look at that thing and said, wow, here's painting before that and here's painting after that, and they look very different. And this guy did that to the history of painting. And he puts a little smile on you. If you're in serious illness, being tortured by doctors and nurses in a hospital, puts a little smile on your lips to, death tried to wipe every last vestige of me out, but I got that Demoiselle d'Avignon on the wall of this museum and in the books and textbooks, and for the future of mankind, people will know that it went this way before that painting and it went that way after that painting. So that's my image of retirement, and I'm blessed in the sense that I worked really, really hard to change and improve and upgrade my mind as a kid. And then I went to really great colleges and found people vastly smarter and more educated than me there who inspired me to do more. And then by the time I got out of those colleges, I had so vast and intense study habits that I've been reading 3 books a day for 44,000 books for the last 40 years and turning them into models. And then I've developed this ability to write and turn those models into more interesting meta models. And I've had enough good feedback from the best quality minds in my era, founders of the University of Chicago Business School, calling my work a work of genius, that I haven't had to self-doubt my own worth, and I could just generate and generate and generate, assume the worth and generate, assume the worth and generate. And then I had another stroke of luck of studying creativity very seriously, reading 2,000 books on creativity research. And throughout that entire literature of research on creativity, the message came: generate, don't doubt your worth, generate, generate, generate. And worry about your worth and upgrade it and compare and all that, but then generate, generate. Don't let the evaluating mechanism stop the generating mechanism or slow it down. The main thing is produce every day and let the evaluation thing do itself, and then use evaluation when you can to adapt and try other directions, because any one direction is liable to end up evolutionarily abandoned eventually. And so the more directions you try, the more chance that some of your work will rise up to fill a gap. So, and then, where to live? Well, you want to, for this retirement phase of life, you want to choose places where you want to live. And my wife and I love Hawaii. We may love some parts of Thailand or Malaysia, Singapore, It's a little humid in Singapore. We definitely love Southern California, although recently it's gotten up to the 40 degrees C in summer there. Southern Germany, Karlsruhe, was a beautiful Italian climate and a green, small, livable city. And with France so near and Switzerland so near and Italy so near and these wonderful German hot springs that people go to. No stores open on Sunday is the one thing, so you have to sort of play cards with yourself on Sunday. But musings on retirement, I guess I'll call this. And, retiring for my wife, her dream is being free to have a childhood at the age of 50 or 60. She has been pushed so much of her life from crisis to crisis that she really wants a chance to have peace for 20 years and see what her interests are without being pushed to go take care of herself or take care of somebody else. And women are often like that their older years are when they're least pushed with family obligations and they can find themselves and they become really satisfied with life in their older years for this reason. So I hope that happens to her.